Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to review the Los Gatos, California real estate market analysis for November of 2008. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors and a certified ePro, and I'm also the CEO and president of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate, serving all of Silicon Valley. Now let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the numbers for November of 2008 for Los Gatos. Now, the first thing we'll look at will be inventory numbers, and we can see that they've sort of resumed that dramatic increase that we've seen previously before the economic downturn with the stock market and whatnot. But what's interesting is that Los Gatos is one of the communities where we're performing below what we've seen in other communities within Santa Clara County. Normally, Los Gatos is one of those communities that tends to resist the downturn. If things are bad elsewhere, they tend to be a little better in Los Gatos. At least that's the way we've been seeing things going with the market over the last year and a half, 2 years. In this month, though, that's really not the case. We've a continuing increase in the inventory in Los Gatos. Last month was really the first dramatic increase. Inventory is actually at 57.76% from the same time last year. That is 67 more homes on the market now in November of 2008 than at the same time in November of 2007 for Los Gatos. That gives us a grand total of 183 homes currently on the market in Los Gatos. Now, if we go ahead and factor into that the new listings, the homes that have been added to the market, you can see not only that we've really sort of set a record now for the number of homes being added to the market, but we've also seen a very steady increase since 2006 in this number as more and more folks each year have decided to try and get their homes sold. We're actually up 29.73% from the same time last year. That means that 11 more homes were added to the market in November of 2008 than were in 2007. That gives us a grand total of 48 homes added to the market in Los Gatos in November of 2008. Now let's go ahead and factor in the number of homes sold, because this is also trending in the direction we wouldn't want to see for the market in Los Gatos. As you can see, sales have been in decline in Los Gatos since 2006. This year we saw a 30.77% decrease in sales from the already dismal performance of 2007. Now I know that 30.77 sounds like a big number, but it's actually only 4 fewer homes sold in the month of November of 2008 than in November of 2007. But still, it's something we need to take into account. We only sold 9 homes in November of 2008, so that's a pretty depressing number. Now, what's really important is what I like to call the ratio, and that's basically the total inventory divided by the total number of homes sold. And what that tells us is how long it would take to sell off the inventory if sales numbers stuck where they were at the moment and inventory didn't continue to increase. But it also gives us an idea of the competition between sellers. So you can think of this number as the number of homes that are on the market for every one that sells. So for every home that's sold in Los Gatos, about 20 homes are on the market. And that's not good news, particularly when you consider that last month that number was at 13.79. So last month, for every home that's sold, there were about 13 homes on the market. Now, even worse, Los Gatos normally outperforms the average for the entire county, and we're just not seeing that this month. In fact, this same number for the county in general was at 8.52. So right now, Los Gatos is seeing twice the ratio of inventory to solds than the county in general, which is a little bit shocking when you understand the history of Los Gatos and the sort of resilient nature that the market's enjoyed during past downturns. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the same numbers just over past months. What we're going to do is examine these numbers going back to August of 2007 just to see if we can get any inkling of where we might go, see if we have fit in with the same trends we saw last year. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the inventory numbers. You can see, compared to last month, so between October and November, we got a decrease in the inventory, which is good news. It's actually down 5.18%. That's 10 fewer homes on the market in November than there were in October. The number of homes that were listed is actually also down, which is good news. It's down 36% from the same time last year. That's 27 fewer homes added to the marketplace. And sales, unfortunately, declined. We don't want to see that, but it did decline. It went down 35.71%. That's 5 fewer homes sold this month than last month. Now, if we look back previously, let's start with the inventory numbers. Let's look back to last year and see what sort of a relationship we had. We saw that inventory numbers actually went up between September and October, and then October to November we continued that increase. So we're sort of bucking the trend of last year, and we're doing it in a good direction with inventory going down. But what I think we're seeing is actually just buyers coming out. We're seeing a lot of buyers coming out and taking advantage of the short sales and foreclosures in the county in general. Some of that may be spilling over so that it's extending the purchasing period for folks in Los Gatos, and that might be why we saw our inventory take a dip a little bit sooner than usual. Also, we normally would expect in a normal market, so even going back further than the numbers that we see here, in a typical market where there's a little bit more of a balance between buyers and sellers, not so much inventory, a little bit more robust sales, we would normally expect to see the number of homes on inventory drop in November as we enter the holiday season. So it may be as simple as that. Now, do we see any sort of inklings of where we might be going in the coming months in Los Gatos? Well, I think we'll probably see a continued decrease in inventory last month. In the next month, in December. I'm not sure what we'll see as far as sales numbers are concerned. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw either flat or slightly increased performance, simply because we have seen a lot more buyers coming out and taking advantage of some aggressive pricing. But we have seen most of that occurring at the lower end. So I'm not sure how much of a payoff that'll be for folks in Los Gatos, where the average home price is quite a bit higher than in other parts of the county. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the sales numbers. What did we see last year? Well, if you look at November, you can see it was really very flat. From August all the way into November, we saw numbers dropping with very flat performance between October and November. Same basic theme, of course, in August and September it was a little different as we saw an increase in sales, but we've seen sales steadily declining as we've headed into the winter months. Again, with a normal balanced market, that's fairly normal and to be expected. We'll have to see how this pans out in the coming months. Now, in the months of December and January, we saw increased sales last year. It wouldn't surprise me if we see the same sort of thing last year. There really are more buyers milling around out there, but as I said, a lot of them are not purchasing at the higher price ranges. So we'll have to see how that pans out for Los Gatos. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at home prices going back to 1999, and we've got a special number this month simply because I had to make an allowance for something. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at these numbers. Now, you'll see 2008 is represented twice. We had a rather unusual sale this month, in November for Los Gatos. The highest priced home in Los Gatos was on Cowell Road, and that sold for $7,150,000. Its original list price was $8,400,000. And because we get so few sales per month, it's just we don't do as much volume of homes in Los Gatos as we do in other communities. That really raised that number. So what I've done is given you the average home price twice in Los Gatos. Now, that first column, which jumps all the way up to a very high $2,025,000 for the average sales price in Los Gatos, it takes into account this $7.1 million home that sold. Now, because that was so statistically high and really kind of put the numbers out of balance, I also wanted to give you a graphical representation of the average price without that home. Now, we did still see some pretty considerable sales in November. Several over $2 million homes managed to get sold last month, so the numbers are still relatively high when compared to last year. But I wanted to sort of calibrate you that we haven't seen some insane recovery. Now, here, the reason why I really want to point this out is that I think that for those of you who are considering selling your home, if you're in the process of interviewing real estate agents, if you're a buyer who's considering shopping in Los Gatos, I have a feeling that you're going to hear about this number more than any other. Real estate agents are really going to use this to convince you that the market has turned and that you should be listing with them now to get the home sold at this price. Buyers, your real estate agents are going to tell you that you're going to have to come up with more money on homes that you're making offers on. And then when this is a very dramatic month for this particular number. This is a lot higher than we've seen in past years. But anytime I see a statistical jump like this and understand what really caused it or get that it's not quite a real representation of what the average is, and then I have conversations with agents out there. Most of them just look at the general number. They get the bullet number or the headline and never bother to look any deeper. And, frankly, I don't think they want to. I think they want to use that number to beat folks over the head with, to convince them to list with them or to pay higher prices for a home, those types of things. Don't let yourselves be fooled this time. if you're listening to this, you've got the right information. You know that the reason this number is so high is because one home sold that was just way out of the average, way out of the normal range of price for Los Gatos, and that's why it was so high. So what I'd like you to do is, if you're talking to real estate agents, if you're looking to buy or looking to sell, don't let yourself be terribly swayed by someone telling you that the average price for a home in Los Gatos in November was over $2 million, because the real story is that it wasn't quite there. Now, we'll go ahead and, just for grins, I guess, because I don't think it makes a lot of sense to hang your hat on this number, but we'll go ahead and give you some of the statistics here. The average home price is up 54.66%. That's a $715,000 increase for the average home price of $2,025,000. Now, here's where we get to the interesting part, and this is also another way to really judge numbers. Now, look at the distance in the median price and the average price. When you see something like that, whenever you're looking at statistics, and that's particularly why it's very important, I think, in most cases, to see the median price in addition to the average price. When you see a distance like that between the average and the median, you know that there's something way out of the ordinary happening with the numbers. One of the individual numbers is way out there compared to the others, and that kind of a statistical spread will really get pointed out by something like the median, because what you can see is a very normal decrease with the median going all the way back to 2006, and yet here in 2008 we see this dramatic increase in average price. So now the median price is actually down 5.78%. That's a $65,000 decrease. The median price was $1,060,000. So what do we take? What's the take home from this? If I were to try to ascertain what the average price is, I would say we've probably seen a real continuing decrease in the average price. You'll also see that when we talk about the average price per square foot here in a second, that has not gone up. So those are the numbers that are probably going to play a little bit more of a part in you determining what you should be offering or what you should be asking for a property. Okay, so as I said, the highest priced home in Los Gatos was on Cowell Road. The lowest priced home was on Oka Lane in Los Gatos. That sold for $650,000. It was originally listed for $830,000, and it had been on the market for 117 days. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, the average price per square foot is down this month from last month, despite the fact the average price shows so high. The average price per square foot was $565.47 in Los Gatos for November of 2008. The average list price per square foot last month, $600.39. So that's down quite a bit from last time. The average days on market, cumulative days on market, which we'll discuss here in a minute, was actually 74, and we'll compare that actually to the rest of the months before. Let's go ahead and take a look at those same home prices, just looking back over previous months. We'll take a look first at the average price. Now, I'm not even bothering to put in that $2+ million number here. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it paints a true picture, so I am not going to put it here on the past months table. The M notes that it's modified to make an allowance for that statistically out there number. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at this, we can see that between October and November, we've actually had a decrease that came down to a decrease of 8.65%, or a drop of $131,133. And the average home price, if we discount that highest priced home, was $1,384,375. Median price change from October to November was down 2.53% for a dollar amount change of $27,500. And remember, that's a grand total of 9 homes sold. So if we go ahead and look at November of last year, we can see last year things were a little bit more fluctuating. And again, because we are in such a smaller market here in Los Gatos, individual homes can really throw the numbers up or down. What you want to do is try to sort of smooth these out. So for instance, October of last year really should be probably a number more between September and November. And then you can see that there was a steady increase going from November all the way until March. I think that's more of a realistic stand to take. And interestingly enough, while we saw that big peak in April, we would normally have expected to see that peak in June or July. So we saw things actually decrease. The summer months actually remained relatively flat, and we've started to see a general decrease since the summer months. Now, where has the median been? Now, the median can always sort of point out these statistical anomalies for you. If there's a big difference between the median and the average price, that usually indicates we've got a property or two that sold that was way out in the high end. but there's so much variety and price in Los Gatos. Oftentimes, you just need to look a little more closely to see these explained. Median price actually hasn't come down that much since last month. Price obviously has come down. Where do we think we're going to go in the coming months? Where if we use last month as a guide, we would expect things to go up. I am not convinced that's going to happen. I would project that we're going to see things remaining relatively flat. They might just sort of plateau out where they are right now. And then I think what we'll see is an increase probably after January as more folks come out to take advantage of some of these prices that will still exist after the holiday season is over. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the days to sell. How many days is it taking to get a home sold in Los Gatos? It is up to 74 days in November of 2008 for Los Gatos to get a home sold. Not a dramatic increase from last month. That's actually relatively good news. The days to sell is actually up 3. That's a 4.23% increase from the same time last year. Now, the lowest days on market in November was 15. The highest 163. Now, what's interesting is that the amount of time that it's taking on average is staying relatively acceptable or stable. But really the shift has been more towards higher numbers that are in the middle. And let me try to explain that. In the past, we've had usually a pretty good number of homes that sold in the first week or two of the home's listing. And then we had a few that had been on the market for much longer, and that sort of balanced out the average. What we're seeing now is less of a grouping at the bottom and a grouping at the top. What we're starting to see now is the grouping tends to be right around 31 to 90 days, so right around the 60-day point. So let me sort of break down these numbers for you. No homes sold in the first week. We had 0 homes in the first 7 days. In 8 to 30 days, 2 homes sold. In 31 to 90 days, 4 homes sold. In 90 to 180 days, 3 homes sold. And no homes sold in greater than 180 days. So no really long times on the market for any of these. But what we have seen is just sort of the real number of days that it's taking to get things sold has sort of been closing in on a central point right around 60 to 70 days. So this number is a pretty good representation of, I think, what you can expect to take if you're going to try and get your home sold at this time of year. Where are we going to go in the future? Well, let's take a look at past months and see if we can't get any good information on where we might be heading on days on market. Now, as you can see, February was crazy high. And again, that was a statistical kick because a home that had been in the market for an exceptionally long time had sold that month. Now, let me explain something that's a little bit strange about days on market. A lot of folks expect days on market to drop when the market starts getting hot again. It's actually the opposite. Days on market tends to kick up a little bit when the market is starting to heat up, simply because as more buyers come out and more homes start to sell, homes that had been on the market for an exceptionally long time start to get taken off of the market. So it's actually a sign. It's a good news, right? Because the homes that are finally selling, some of them have been on the market for an extremely long time. You're just getting rid of some of that old stock that had hung around when things were slower. So when things started to really start to move and there were more buyers and more competition, some of those homes that have been on the market for a really long time tend to go. So don't be surprised when you see sales numbers go up for a month and then you see the days on the market jump at the same time. It's simply because you're clearing out old inventory that had been in the market for a long time. That's really what we saw happen in February as things started to heat up a little bit. And then the days on market, you can see, started to increase during those summer months. Again, stock getting sold off that had been on the market a little bit longer. Now, what was the days to sell change between October and November? It was actually up 105.56%. Last month, we had 36 days on average for homes to get sold. 30-day increase in that number for this month. And that sort of just gives you the ballpark figure. Now, last month we also talked about how 36 was a little artificially low. We had several homes that had sold relatively quickly that sort of skewed the numbers for us. I think the realistic number right now is, as I stated, right around 60 days. If you're working it, if you just throw your house on the market, you can expect to stay there a long time. If you've got a real estate agent with a plan who's got plenty of methods in place to get your property exposed to as many potential buyers as possible, if you're cooperating with your agent and doing all the things you can to really make your home the best option at that price range, then this is what you're going to probably have to face, about a 60-day time period before you get that home sold. All right, so now I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to what I have to say on these market analysis. If you'd like to look at any of my other videos on market analysis or listen to my weekly podcast or read any of my other articles on real estate, you can find those at my website at www.soldbyrobert.com. You can also find the videos obviously on YouTube since you're probably watching them there right now. You can also contact me via email at robert@soldbyrobert.com. If you'd prefer to talk live, feel free to dial 408-852-0525. And if you're someone who prefers using instant messaging, you can find me on AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, and Yahoo IM with the screen name The Rebel Broker. If you are a Skype user, use Rebel Broker to get in touch. And of course, referrals are always appreciated. If you or anyone you know is interested in real estate in the Silicon Valley area, please feel free to get in touch using any of the methods I've laid out above. And finally, if you're shopping for real estate outside of California or outside of Silicon Valley, California, I can help you find the perfect agent for your needs. Feel free to get in touch, and I will give you some referrals to some great agents in your area who can take care of your needs and give you the kind of service you deserve. Thanks again, and I will talk to you all next time.